Hey everyone, this is Algebra 1. This is the Unit 3 practice test. It's question number 7. So this is a story problem or word problem dealing with systems of equations. And so what I really want to focus on here is how to write and set up the equation. So the trick here is it's not really a trick, but the hard part here is to read through this problem and understand, what's going on with it. There's some keywords in there that will tell us what sort of math operations, give us some clues about some of the variables that we should use and so forth. So that's what we're gonna look at here. So if we read through the problem, you're offered two different sales jobs. First company offers a straight commission of 6% of the sales. Second company offers a salary of $210 a week plus 1% of the sales. And so the question is, how much would you have to sell in a week in order for the straight commission to be at least as good? Excuse me. So there's a couple of things that we're looking at here. So one is we have two companies, so they have offers from two different companies, and so that's going to be kind of the basis for our two equations. We'll have one equation that represents the offer from the first company, and another equation that represents the offer from the second company. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to look at the variables. Okay, what sort of variables are we going to need in here? And so they're asking you how much you would have to sell in a week, right? So how much would you have to sell in a week? So this is always a good indication of what a variable might be. So I'm gonna create a variable that represents how much I'm going to sell. All right. So so in my work here, I'm going to say S is going to represent the amount, right, of sales in a week. Okay, so S is going to be the amount of money that that I generate in sales. Okay, and then the other part of that is that they're talking about how much money we're going to make. Okay, so we're talking about salaries here, right? So salary. So how much am I going to make? And so that's going to be the other variable that I'm going to use because I want to know what my total salary is per week so that I can compare those two jobs. So when I look at this, I have S that I'm using for the amount of sales, but I also need to know my salary. So rather than using S again, I'm going to use P, which represents my pay. Okay, so this is going to be my pay per week. Pay for 1 week. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to look at some variables here. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some of the key words that are in here. And so when I look at this problem, there's some words that stand out to me here. So straight commission of so 6%, right? 6% that represents 6 out of 100, right? So 6 out of 100. So that means if I sold $100 worth of stuff, I would get $6. Okay. The other way we can think about that as 6 over 100, or as a fraction, 6 divided by 100, which is 0.06, right? If we write that as a decimal. But this is what I'm looking at here. So the word of means multiply. Okay, when we see that in a word problem, a story problem, that generally means that we're going to do a multiplication operation. Okay, so it's telling me that the first company, my pay is going to be 6% of all of the sales. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my thing here. So for the first company, the amount of pay that I make is going to be 6%. I'm going to write that as a decimal, 0.06 of means multiply, and the sales. So there's my first equation, and that's an S. Just remember why I don't like to use the variable S, because a lot of times it gets confused for a 5, but that's an S. Okay, so my pay for the first company is going to be 0.06 times whatever the sales are. Okay, for the second company, they're going to pay me $210 a week. Okay, so if I don't sell anything, I still get $210 a week. Plus, right? So there's another one of those key words. So this is going to be addition, right? Plus 1% of the sales. So again, we have some of those keywords. 1%, that's 0.01 as a decimal. Of means multiply, and then S is my sales there. So if I look at my second company now, company 2, for the second company, my pay is going to be $210 plus 1%, 0.01 times my variable S. Okay, so now I've got a system of equations. I've got two variables, I've got two equations, okay, and I'm trying to find out where those are going to be equal. So when those two equations have the same points, right? When the pay is the same on those, then I'll know, how much sales I'll have to make, and then I can compare them. So if if I have sales that are more than a certain amount of money, then the first job's going to pay more money because it's 6%, right? So it's a larger percent of the sales. But if I have a small amount of money, maybe the second job would be better because it's a smaller percentage of the sales, but I get that additional $210 on top of it. So I just want to see where they even out there. And so I'm going to use a system of equations to solve that. Now, this system of equations is set up for substitution, right? The substitution process is really good for this one because I've got a variable all by itself. I've got that P, my pay is all by itself. And so with substitution, I can just take this second part of this equation and just replace it for P in the second equation. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say 0.06 S is equal to, that's my P, right? P is equal to $210 a week plus 0.01 S. Okay, so this is how I can solve this using substitution. So I'm going to use substitution. Okay, so substitution, and so I can go ahead and solve that. If I subtract 0.01 S from both sides, I get 0.05 S is equal to 210. If I divide both sides by 0.05, so if I take $210 and divide it by 0.05, I get 210 divided by 0.05. I'm going to use a calculator to do that calculation. And so I get 4,200. So if I divide both sides by 0.05, I know that my sales has to be $4,200. Okay, so if we go back to the question here, let's see if we've answered the question yet. And so it says, how much would you have to sell in a week in order for the straight commission job to be at least as good as the second job? And so we answered that question already, right? We know that when I have sales of $4,200, then those two salaries will be exactly the same. If I sell more than $4,200, then I'm better off with the company that pays 6% in commission. If the sales are less than $4,200, then I know that I would have been better off with the second company that pays the $210 plus 1%. Okay, so my answer is $4,200 in sales. Okay, so there's my answer.